Hello, this is Michael Tallon, and I'm here with another video in my series on the genetic condition hereditary hemochromatosis, an iron processing disorder that sits at the heart of a book I've written about my experiences with hereditary hemochromatosis, a book that is entitled Incompatible with Life, a memoir of grave illness, great love, and survival. And if you've been watching this video series, you know that you can read the introduction to that book at my website, michaeljtallon.com. And I'd appreciate it if you did and you left a comment. I'm trying to get an agent or a publisher interested in this work. It's a great book. It's a wonderful story. So if you could read it and leave a comment, I'd appreciate it. In the past videos, we've done an overview of hereditary hemochromatosis. We've talked a little bit about the tests that are used to diagnose hemochromatosis, a genetic test and also an iron profile test. We've talked a little about early detection and prevention of the damage that can be done by hereditary hemochromatosis as the iron toxifies the liver, heart, pancreas, joints, glandular system, and all those other squishy bits. And in this video, I actually want to pull back a little bit and talk a little about the origin of the disease and sort of a mystery that sits in the heart of it, at least a mystery for me, that I came across as I was reading about hereditary hemochromatosis from the cardiac ward of Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City, trying to understand what it was that was killing me. And one thing I learned is that hereditary hemochromatosis first developed, the genetic mutation occurred first in a Neanderthal ancestor. When I read that, I thought that that was kind of neat. And then it struck me later that day that it was my direct lineal Neanderthal ancestor. The only way that I end up with it is if I am if I am one of the descendants of that individual who first had the genetic mutation that prevented their body from eliminating dietary iron, which is cool in and of itself. But the other thing that kind of puzzled me and that I had to think about was knowing a little bit, a layman's understanding of Darwinian evolution, survival of the fittest, is the understanding that genetic mutations that are advantageous to survival, defined by the individuals who have that mutation growing to an age where they can have their own offspring, propagate and pass on that genetic material to the next generation. A genetic mutation sticks around in the human population or the Neanderthal population if it helps that process. So as I was laying in the hospital bed, being incompatible with life and really expecting to die in the next few days, I wondered how the hell it was that this thing that was killing me was at some point in human history, Neanderthal history, advantageous. And it took a little bit of sleuthing and a little bit of history, but if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. The Neanderthal population that first developed this genetic mutation and then passed it on through interbreeding to Cro-Magnon and Homo sapiens was in Northern Europe. What was going on in Northern Europe 40,000 years ago? It was pretty chilly. It was during the last great ice age. And so think about it. Why would a genetic mutation that prevents the body from eliminating dietary iron, that stores dietary iron in the heart, liver, pancreas, glands, and joints, how would that be advantageous? And if you think about it, and you think about the inverse of hereditary hemochromatosis, it kind of clicks into place. Life in Northern Europe 40,000 years ago was sort of a George R.R. Martin dream. Winter had come, and it was a winter that did not just last 6 months. It was a winter that lasted for years, decades. And so there would be populations who were living at the edges of that extreme ice age environment where you might not be able to find game animals as a hunting population for months and months at a time, possibly years at a time. And human beings need iron in their systems to produce new red blood cells. And if you don't have that iron in your system, you can develop a deadly disease on the other end of the iron spectrum, iron deficiency anemia. And so hemochromatosis was advantageous in a time of iron scarcity, in a time of meat scarcity, when game animals were hard to come by, and my great 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 1,000 times great grandmother who had this genetic mutation, her offspring would be more able to survive those long periods of iron drought. And so they outcompeted those who did not have it. Um, and that kind of flipped my head around as I was laying in the hospital bed, because I was sort of cursing my fate. You know, I'm a 48-year-old man, had been living a life that was joyful and filled with love, and then suddenly I'm struck down with this condition that had given me liver cirrhosis and diabetes and heart disease and all these other problems. And it seemed somehow unfair, but then there was the realization that came after it that if hereditary hemochromatosis didn't exist, if the genetic mutation had never occurred 40,000 years ago in the Neanderthal population, then it's entirely possible, it's likely, it's probable that I wouldn't be around to have had 48 years of life, because my great 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 1,000 times great grandmother Neanderthal might not have survived the long winter when the rest of her tribe, the rest of her community, was dying of iron deficiency anemia. And so had it not been for this genetic mutation that was absolutely threatening my life 40,000 years later, my entire lineage, my father, my grandfather, my great-grandmother, going back for 1,000 generations, might simply never have existed. And I just find that fascinating, so I figured I'd share that with you. I'll dig in a little bit more in a video soon about the treatments that are used for this and how that ties into a really cool story about Hippocrates of Kos. But for now, I just wanted to share that reflection that were it not for this genetic mutation 40,000 years ago, 1,000 generations of my family wouldn't have been here, I wouldn't have been here, and I wouldn't have had this experience, which then led me to write a book called Incompatible with Life, a memoir of grave illness, great love, and survival, which you can read at michaeljtallon.com. You can read the introduction and leave a comment, and I'd appreciate it if you did. Until the next time, love to you all, and thanks for watching these.